I call this Altoona City Council work session to order Monday, August 22nd at 6 p.m. We'll now have a moment of silent prayer. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we'll open the floor for public comment at this time. If anybody would like to address council, you may come to the podium, state your name and address for the record, and we ask that you please keep your comments to under 5 minutes.
Hi, my name is Brooksell. I live at 700 Ruskin Drive in Altoona. I'm here tonight just to voice a concern that I have with the intersection of 51st Street and Beaumont. My lot comes up and is adjacent to that intersection. And unfortunately, I think we've all noticed in the past few years, you know, yesterday, today being a little bit of an example, that we've been having these new onsets of these microburst storms where we're getting this, 2, 3, 4 inches of rain in very short periods of time. I understand it's causing problems across the city, other places in the county. With that being said, I'm just in this position that, that intersection of 51st and Beaumont, that's at the bottom of a hill. And so what's happening is, when those microburst storms come, that excessive water is coming down, and the grates that are at the bottom of the hill, unfortunately, just now aren't sufficient enough to capture that water. With that being said, I'll be responsible for my property. I'm here tonight to ask the city to come alongside of me and try and help me, at least in the interim, come up with a solution, because I can put $25,000, $35,000 into my property to help resolve this issue on my end. However, I think with some of the photos that I have, it can clearly display that investment isn't really going to touch it. I did get to speak to a gentleman at Public Works, and that was while he was in the neighborhood. I think they were doing some assessment on those drains. To my understanding, I think the city is looking to, start to look at that process to upgrade, whether that's, adding more drain grates, whether that's increasing, those pipes from, what I appear to be, maybe 12 inches, above my lot, to, the 18 to 24 that I understand PennDOT, is currently starting to be, of standard. And the gentleman from Public Works was very kind and, assured me that that was being worked on. I did not call anybody from Public Works. I just wanted to start here. I know that's a process. I understand that doesn't happen overnight. It's not going to happen next week. It might be next year till that happens. But with that being said, in the interim, is the city willing to, potentially pour me, a blacktop lip, a 24-inch lip that would help bounce that water back when those types of storms happen? Could they possibly excavate me? I can't excavate it myself because Penelec lines are there. I'm sure there's gas lines up there. I'm just looking for the city to come alongside of me. I will be responsible for my property, but, with that being said, when this is my second incident in the last 3 years. This last incident was on June 20th of this past year. When that happened, my husband was gone, my child was gone, I was home by myself, and it took me about 4 to 5 days to not only pump that water out of my basement, that was pumped out immediately, but cleaning up the excess mess. I would lay my best hand in Vegas that water was cross-contaminated with sewer. I have been sick ever since. I'm not dying, I've made it to work, but has definitely impacted my life. I've been back and forth to the doc, had multiple labs drawn. I'm on the mend and I'm fine. But moving forward, I don't want to see my child sick. I don't want to see my grandchildren sick. I don't want to see my dog sick. So, with that being said, I would like to leave some photos behind if they could, possibly be passed off to Public Works. And hopefully I can, talk with somebody a little bit further about what are maybe some amenable, solutions that the city can help me with. Hmm?
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, if there's no more public comment, we will close the floor and move on to our discussion items for tonight. The first one being is Comcast, and joining us is Jennifer Fries and Kristen Ritchie.
Hi, good evening. Hello. Good evening, everyone. My name is Jen Fries. I'm a Senior Manager of Government Affairs with Comcast, and with me tonight I have Kristen Ritchie, also a Senior Manager of Government Affairs with Comcast. Quite a few years ago, the city came to us and had asked Comcast to expand our footprint into the city, and at the time, it was not feasible for us to do. And Division has come to us and they have allocated some funds for us to do a walkout, which means we have our crews looking at every pole in the city to be able to come to the city of Altoona and provide a choice for your cable provider, your internet provider, to your city residents. What we have started in Blair County, sorry, I'm short. What we have started in Blair County is an expansion project, and currently we are looking at building out Blair and Allegheny Townships, as well as Hollidaysburg and Duncansville. We are considering that phase 1 of our expansion project. Phase 2 would be able to bring us into the city of Altoona and Logan Township. Now, what the expansion projects are is we look to continue to build our footprint to be able to get to residents of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania who are underserved or not served at all. Why are we coming to you this evening? We need to ask you to consider giving us it's a cable franchise by the Cable Act of 1984. What the franchise does is it allows us to be in the utility right-of-way and the utility easements for any underground areas in the city. I did provide a preliminary map to the mayor of the city, and we are looking at doing a total build out of 63 total miles, 56 aerial, and 7 miles underground. Oh, I'm sorry, that is the wrong municipality. That was Logan. For the city of Altoona, we are looking at 254 total miles, 226 aerial, and 28 underground, with a total of, between residential and commercial passings, a total of over 25,000 passings. Now, construction is a very long process. It takes about 18 months, and that's barring no unforeseen circumstances, as well as dealing with Mother Nature. So what we do is we have what we consider pre-construction and the make-ready, where we're filing for permits. We're doing the final walkout and design, and then the construction portion takes about 12 months. We also have Mike Stope here from our construction team, so he would be able to answer preliminary construction questions as well. So we are coming to the city and asking for a franchise, and the franchise just lets us provide cable services. Now, back in 1984, when the Cable Act was written, there was no internet, and you had a line coming to your home for power, you had a line coming to your house for your telephone, and you had a line coming to your house for your cable TV. Now all of our services come through one feed to your home, a coax feed, and that's a digital TV, digital phone, your internet, home security. So that whole package comes in together. So if Comcast came in and didn't want to provide cable services, we would just apply for permits and let you know that we were coming in and we would like to be able to provide our internet and digital services to your residents. But knowing that we can also provide the digital cable services, we're here tonight again to ask for a franchise. One of the things that Comcast is very proud of is our Internet Essentials program. It is $9.95 a month, and it does target those less fortunate. And there are a multitude of ways that you would qualify for the Internet Essentials. You can be a low-income senior, a low-income vet. It's one of 10. There's one of 10 ways that you can qualify under the Department of Human Services and the federal government, be it Medicaid, Medicare, the EBT card if you get supplemental food stamps. You can receive a Pell Grant, free or reduced lunches. So if you have, say, 4 children that go to the city schools and 1 child gets a reduced lunch, it doesn't have to be all 4 of them, just 1 child, you would qualify for the Internet Essentials for $9.95 a month. We also have an Internet Essentials that is a higher tier at $29.95 a month. And what we like to let everyone know, we work with the school districts, we work with community leaders, we work with senior centers, that you can apply for the ACP program through the federal government, which is $30 a month for your data. You can actually receive your Internet Essentials for free. So it's a great program. We've been doing it now for 11 years. We've updated the speeds every year, and we like to tout that it's a great program, and we've hooked up millions of families to the Internet Essentials program. So I hope I stayed in my 5-minute allotment of time. I just got the
You don't have,
go-ahead.
yeah, 5 minutes just for public comment. You're part of
Okay.
the agenda tonight, so
All
you
right,
can.
thank you.
Yeah, you're good.
So, I know that I threw out a lot of information very quickly to you, so if you have questions for us, we'd be happy to answer them. Should you go ahead and provide us with a franchise, and I did give a draft franchise to the mayor as well, I would see this project through the construction phase for the next 12 to 18 months. And then Kristen has Blair County in her footprint. All of us in government affairs have a certain part of the Commonwealth that we cover, and Kristen has Blair County. So if you have any preliminary questions for us, we can answer them. And I just want to let you know, like I said, we are doing the final walkout now. So the preliminary map that I did provide, it may be tweaked a little bit. Because when we have our boots on the ground that are actually looking at every pole and every wire and every connection, obviously some things do change. But right now, we're looking at doing almost all aerial for the city. So, any questions?
I did have one. You said coaxial. Is it going to be fiber?
We have a fiber backbone, and then it's a coax cable that would run it to your home. So, Mike, if you want to come speak up.
Can you come
Hey,
to the microphone,
yeah.
please?
Sorry.
Yeah, that way everybody can.
It is? Go ahead.
The plan for phase 2 for Altoona is gonna be all EPON, that's gonna be all fiber to the prem.
Okay.
As far as the planning stage goes now, and then there's gonna be a actual hub placed. There's, 3 properties being considered right now for the hub?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, well, that was my question because, coax is kind of on its way out, so fiber
Absolutely.
would be,
Fiber's been a backbone of ours for a long time. It's gonna be primarily fiber. That's how Blair, Allegheny, Duncansville, and Hollidaysburg are being connected right now. That's called R-Fi. It's a digital with a fiber backbone and a coax drop to the house. Altoona phase 2 is gonna be, that's fiber. That's
Complete
100% fiber, yes.
okay, thank you.
Okay.
So, timeline speaking here, phase 1 will be about complete in a couple years or so, or?
The first 4 portions, currently right now we have finished the walkout and we have finished the design. If everything proceeds the way we're looking at it, we may have passings end of Q4, beginning of Q1. We are still waiting on a franchise for 2 municipalities.
Okay.
And we're finalizing the franchise for a third, and we have one in hand. So we're going to start with that municipality. Did you want to speak to construction or? Okay. Did you have more construction questions or?
I was just wondering how you go about the utility pole agreements, because you're probably not going to be putting in your own unless you have to at certain places.
We connect, we apply for permits and we work with Penelec to attach to their poles. Power is at the top, and then 36 inches down is where the comm space starts. So we
Okay.
would attach to those poles. That's part of the make ready, and that's what takes the longest time.
Bell Telephone or Verizon has poles and Penelec has poles. Do they share them, or is it usually a power or a?
This is why Mike comes along.
Okay.
We have Orbital Engineering is a Orbital Engineering is a engineering firm that works directly for Penelec. They're dealing with all of our submissions, our poll profiles, so that all of that is in one process. There's the submission, and then there's the fees, the payment of the fees. All of that is separate to Penelec, separate to Verizon. Verizon has a licensing. There's several forms that come out. We're in the third or fourth form stage right now. There's a representative from Orbital. She's actually riding out with Verizon, looking at all the polls, making sure that everything is in line in conjunction with how we're going to build, and we're getting licensing back and everything based on that. So they're actually working. There's a representative from Verizon and the engineering team from Orbital riding out and making sure all that's taken care of, safety, compliancy, things of that nature.
So you will share poles across the city? Okay,
Right, we'll be permitted to attach whenever we get the licensing from Verizon, yes.
okay, thank you.
And that's with CenturyLink. There's some CenturyLink involved in our path. There's Penelec. There's several, because this starts all the way back into Williamsburg and comes into here. That's how we have to get the fiber in. Any other construction questions?
Thank you.
I don't have any questions. I just want to say thank you guys. I know you mentioned 6 years ago when I first reached out to Todd, your predecessor. I'm really happy that we're finally bringing this to Altoona and to the other residents in Blair County as well. And we look forward to having you guys here.
We are as well, thank you. And if anyone, goes home tonight and comes up with some questions, you can just ask Mayor Matt for my contact information. Feel free to email me, and we'll get back to you and get your questions answered.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, moving along to the next item, the project rating exercise. Omar?
Going to be C. It'll be at the end of this presentation. So as this loads up, this is just a product of some brainstorming that was led by the Public Works Department related to projects that could take place within the city. They cover a number of category areas that we're going to address. The idea is that we can't do all of them, that's for sure. We can do maybe a handful of these projects. The idea is when we get to what will be letter C, which is project rating exercise, I would like the council to rate the projects that we're going to present in terms of what your preferences are. But we can get to that at the end.
Do you want us, sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. We're going to rate these tonight?
No. So the idea is we go through this, if you have any questions, we'll talk about that and try to flush out answers to those questions. But you would take this back with you, rate it, and then we could address it at the next
Okay.
or some subsequent
Yeah, no, that's fine.
work session. Okay, so as I mentioned, there are several categories we have that these projects would fall into. That would include transportation, recreation, sidewalks and mobility, and stormwater. And we will address them, work through these projects and these categories in that sequence. Transportation is first. So the first potential project we have here is a traffic circle near 31st Street at Broad Avenue and Beale Avenue. It's identified there on the map. So a grant, this would certainly, and by the way, all of these are going to need some level of grant funding. So they're almost always all going to be exclusively grant funded. So with this particular project, a grant could fund the study of the project, construction, or both the study and construction. Traffic in and around the area is difficult to manage. Probably anybody that lives in the area knows that Race Street is a cut through in the city. There's a steep grade coming off of Broad Avenue that kind of empties into the Race Street area. Broad and Beale Avenue are both two-lane roads, and they're going in the opposite direction, of course. The idea is this project would explore a traffic circle designed to eliminate the steep hill, reconfigure lights at 31st Street, and potentially eliminate the use of Race Street. PennDOT would have to be involved as a project partner should this move forward. Potential funding estimate is anywhere from $10 to $15 million. Nate, I'm going to let you weigh in on what you've identified as potential grant funding sources.
So when this started, we had a meeting a few months ago, and we had tried to come up with a list of funding sources that annually come out or that we know about. Not that it's not a complete list. There's a lot of other potential sources also, but the littler ones or the ones that aren't, we do apply in-house besides these ones. But so annually you have the DCD multimodal. Right now you can have a 0% match for that. PennDOT multimodal, there's a 30% match. There's some raised grants through the federal government. I believe those are 0% a match. There's a discretionary fund with the Department of Transportation. Federally, that's 20%. Green Light Go and Arley, they're administered through PennDOT. Those are both 20%. And then there's an RCAP through the state, and that's 50%. So just, some idea. I think really the estimates are, and really the projects themselves, all of these projects are at 100,000 feet. I mean, these are just coming to you kind of hot off the press. So I just wanted to give you all just some type of number to think about. So when you're thinking about a match of what we'd need to put back, this is what we're talking. So
Do you guys have a schematic of this?
no.
Because eliminating the steep hill off of Broad Avenue extension, how many properties are we taking here?
I don't know. This is like, again, this is at 100,000 feet. These are just projects that we have heard concerns about, whether it's cut through traffic or coming up over the hill. Yes, almost every one of these projects has some amount of takes that will, depending on configuration and geometry, I guess. It's just kind of getting a flavor of, is there any appetite for any of these? I would foresee on this one particularly going encapsulating Mill Run through there and making that part of the traffic circle of some sort. coming through there. But a lot of these just, I mean, a lot of these roads just have, the projects coming up just have really weird geometry and turning movements and that. So.
When you guys say traffic circle, do you mean roundabout?
Roundabout, yeah.
Okay. And possibly it like eliminate the lights at Beale and Broad on 31st Street and
That-
make it one big roundabout?
That's what I would foresee, yeah.
Okay, so we'll move on to the next potential project, which is a 10th Avenue retaining wall between 19th Street and 22nd Street. This would be something to keep 10th Avenue from falling down into the railroad, because it's really in a state of disrepair. And the project obviously would be subject for a grant for construction. Potential funding, $4 to $6 million. Nate, you can describe those grant types if we need to.
Those are all the same as before, so yeah, same sources.
The next project for discussion, 17th Street extension to 18th Street and therefore Route 36. This is something that's been out there for a long time. Again, subject to a study or construction grant or both. The action would be studied by PennDOT, has been studied by PennDOT in the past. Route 36 as it is has no real connector, so it's an interesting way that trucks have to move along the main line in Norfolk Southern. It's undersized. Trucks will really detour from Margaret Avenue, use 17th Street, even turn onto 11th Avenue and 16th Street, and eventually get to the 10th Avenue Expressway to head north. So that's obviously a very roundabout, speaking about roundabout, that's a very roundabout way of getting to Route 36. So this would be, building a connector from 12th Avenue and 17th Street would require property acquisition, signal relocations, sidewalk, roadway improvements. Again, PennDOT would have to be a project partner. Potential funding estimate for this project is $15 to $20 million. Most of the same grant possibilities are listed there, although I'm not sure what two of the bottom three are. So maybe, Nate, you could tell us what they are.
One would be a transportation set-aside grant. We could probably get that blended in somehow because the kids use this to walk to school over the bridge. And then also there's a Safe Streets for All, which has just come out or is out through the federal government, which has some, I guess, momentum behind it.
If I could make a comment here, Jeremy? Yep. Okay. But years past on this, we've had discussions coming over 17th Street, and right now, you go up through ostensibly what is an alley, but we've had discussions of taking 12th Avenue from 17th Street to 18th Street and making that two-way to get over to 36. And now the biggest problem has always been that you have to do something with the turning radius when you get up to 12th Avenue. But I still think that that's a viable option, and probably would involve less property taking.
Councilman Kelly, that was actually something that was looked at when we did the 10th Avenue Expressway study with PennDOT. They looked at that and decided that that was not going to be feasible to allow the left turn coming off of 17th Street, even though that seems like it makes the most sense without having to take a lot of the property along 12th Avenue. I think the Russell Music Building may have been one that would have had to go to be able to accommodate the wide right turn up Route 36. I know we have that that study. I think that they completed it, and I believe that information is in there. You can look through and find that.
Okay, so the next project is Beale Avenue Bike Lane with restrictions from 29th Street to Margaret Avenue. Project, again, could be a study, a construction, or or both, be funded by grants. Bike path or pedestrian walkway could be one of the two lanes on Beale Avenue. This project could potentially connect Logan Boulevard corridor to the downtown via Margaret Avenue and the UPMC Medical Mall Trail. 95% of the work would take place within the right-of-way. And the project would include resurfacing sidewalks, and the bike lane are the main construction items. Potential funding estimates, $2.5 to $5 million. Again, you can see there in the presentation there are a number of the same grants that we've talked about, with an estimate of the potential match that would need to be involved. And I guess that's, even though we're talking about these projects being funded by grants, there's obviously a component of match involved in most of the grants that would be available. So whatever we identify to move forward with, if anything, we would also have to identify a match component to be available for this as well. Next project is, again, an old project that was looked at many years ago. It was really been being talked about 20 years ago. Was 6th and 7th Avenue relocation to 9th Avenue from Union Avenue to 6th Street. Study was done by PennDOT. That essentially moved 6th and 7th Avenue away from the Altoona School District campus onto 8th and 9th Avenue between 6th Street and Union Avenue. Obviously a large undertaking, to say the least. Quite a few acquisitions. We look at contaminated soil remediation, signals, roadway, sidewalks. PennDOT again would have to be a main partner, and the study would be an update that what has been done, and really update what has changed from the last time that the study was done, probably again about 20 years ago or even more. And the project funding estimate is, big project, $75 million to $85 million. So.
I remember that, and that thing took a lot of property, as you referenced to, and it really created it took the intersections at 8th and 9th Avenue and made them like huge in order to accommodate all the turning and the traffic on that. But the amount of property it took was really something.
Yeah, as I recall, there was going to be something like, and this was again about 20 years ago, more than 100 businesses that were going to be relocated because of that along the whole stretch of this, and I think that was one of the detriments to it ever moving forward. But again, it's just a project for discussion. There's still some, as we mentioned, discussion out there about moving forward on such a thing, and that we're just throwing it out there for you to be aware of, I guess, if nothing else. Next project is 6th and 7th Avenue traffic circle at Union Avenue. So another traffic circle or roundabout. This would really be in an area where traffic converges in a very unusual and I would say inefficient manner. And this is around the new development on 7th Avenue in the area of, you know, the Grand Palazzo and the Mill project. Again, another project with property acquisition, signals, sidewalks, and soil remediation potential. Again, PennDOT would have to be a partner here. The funding estimate and needs would be about $10 million to $15 million. Is there any other type of grant, Nate, that we haven't identified there? DCNR Trailways, is that?
I think if we could come up with like a bicycle aspect of it, we may be able to get some, although it wouldn't be very much, I don't think, because their pockets aren't very deep. And we could potentially, I believe, get some CDBG funding just because of the neighborhoods, potentially, for sidewalks.
Okay. So that completes our transportation projects. We're going to move into ones that are related to recreation. First up is an indoor sports facility. That's a nice picture we have there. The project would fund the construction of an indoor facility for softball, baseball, soccer, basketball, etc. It would cost anywhere from $6 to $8 million as an estimate. And we don't really know what sources might be available for such a project, but probably some of the same ones we looked at. And I know they're talking about doing something like this in Logan Township. I know that's out there, but I don't know that it's ever going to happen. And this is just kind of as Nate mentioned, it's a high level view of potential projects in our city. The next project up, Garfield Park Track Playground and Trail System. This is a project that really would not take a lot of money and probably would provide a valuable recreation opportunity to this part of the city. So it would be surrounding the Garfield Park fields. I believe the Redevelopment Authority owns a large area of property in that particular area. Be turned into, a nature area and trails, a walking track, and a playground. Recent improvements to lighting, fields, courts, and parking have created a renewed interest in this particular part of the city. Again, not a bad price for, $500,000 to $1 million for such a thing, and several grant opportunities are listed there. Next up is a skate park within the city. There's no area in the city formally dedicated to skateboarding, so the fact that we don't have anything leads to destruction and degradation in the downtown, or at least has over the recent past. Key might be to place, such a park within walking distance of the downtown. To this end, Boyer Candy Company has expressed an interest in leasing or buying ground close to its facility for this purpose, which I think is an interesting idea. Potential funding estimate, again, not a very expensive project in terms of the cost of some of these other projects. $500,000 to $1 million, DCNR Trailways, CDBG eligible, depending on the location, and DCED CFA. What is CFA, Nate?
Commonwealth Financing Authority.
There you go. Thank you, Mayor. Thanks for the assist. So those are potential grant funding opportunities for such a project. Next item up is Garden Heights Parklet. So this is the area of Garden Heights where we have, it's really, I think, in disrepair. There are two parcels in this area. They're surrounded by a fence. It could be converted into a community park. And potential funding estimate, again, not very expensive, $500,000 to $1 million. The various DCNR trailways grants, and then the DCED Community Finance Authority, is that what that was? Grant. Commonwealth Finance, okay. Next item up is at Triangle Park at Union Avenue, where Union Avenue and 8th Avenues meet at 25th Street. So this is an area, again, by the mill and the Grand Palazzo, which is commonly referred to as the Triangle. Contains parcels that could be redeveloped into a community park. You could use any and all of these parcels as a recreational center, potentially in conjunction with remediation of problematic stormwater and road alignments. So again, PennDOT would be a partner if we're going to be doing anything that involves Union Avenue. Potential funding estimate $2 to $4 million, and you can see the grants and the potential matches related to those grants that are listed below. Another potential project, Westfall Nature Area or mountain bike trails. Up above 21st Avenue, really actually in Logan Township, the city owns a parcel or an area of ground, I should say. The ground could be improved upon, and that could include trails or biking and running and community pool even if it was so desired. The project could be for planning, construction, or both. Potential funding estimate $1 to $3 million, and you can see again the potential grants that may be able to be used for such purpose. Next item up is Vets Field improvements. The facilities at that particular location are in need of upgrade, and within the next few years, we're going to need to be replacing the lighting, the grandstands, and other preventative maintenance, as well as the field surface should be reconditioned. Funding estimate is about $1 million, and we have identified a couple of potential funding sources for grants that may be available. Next up, Prospect Pool. So we have people that want to use a pool in the community, certainly, and it's something that a lot of municipalities strive to provide, in the community. Prospect Pool has really outlived its useful life at this point. We've conducted some study related to identifying options for upgrade or replacement. Those options, the costs related, range between $2 and $5 million. But there's potentially some funding available through some grants that are identified there for that purpose. The next category that we're going to look at is sidewalks and mobility. So throughout the city, as this is no surprise to anybody, sidewalks are in disrepair. If you drive around the city, it's easy to observe people walking where there's no formal sidewalk at all, or walkway for that matter. As I mentioned before to council, the city's undergoing a citywide sidewalk assessment, but a number of areas have been identified already for new or improved sidewalks. Whatever that amounts to would probably be in the range of $1 to $3 million. Again, the grants that are listed there would be eligible, sources of funding for sidewalks. And then on the next slide here, we can see what some of those sidewalks areas might look like. So Beale Avenue, bike lane from 31st Street to Margaret Avenue, sidewalks on 7th and 8th Street from 6th Avenue to Crawford Avenue, Howard Avenue from 4th Street to 1st Street, Logan Boulevard sidewalks from 31st Street to 6th Avenue, sidewalks on 58th Street from 6th Avenue to the Texas Hot Dogs, Howman Heights and Garden Heights sidewalks, 7th Avenue sidewalks from 8th Street to 12th Street, 6th Avenue sidewalks from 40th Street to the Sheets on 58th Street, Pleasant Valley Boulevard from 17th Street to Goods Lane. And of course, that would just be identified the parcels that are in the city. 22nd Street from Crawford Avenue to Pleasant Valley Boulevard, the Juniata Gap Trail and lighting, and also Ruskin Drive. Some of the areas that could be in need or could use some connectivity through sidewalks. Next section, our next category we're gonna look at is just a couple of very big projects that fall under the category of stormwater. So, as we all know, the city's has made and is in the process of making a lot of investments in stormwater through our ARPA funding. And there are only two areas identified because they are largest and the most complex. And the city has a number of stormwater issues, but these two projects would help a large portion of the population, and both are located within a 100-year floodplain, excuse me. One is at Pleasant Valley. We have gone through a design of this. It's a meandering stream. Really goes from 2nd Street to 17th Street between Valley View and Pleasant Valley Boulevard. There was a study that identified the 100-year floodplain, and a final design is needed to obtain permitting requirements and approvals to further construction for further construction estimates. The other project is a Mill Run flood control, and this is another large project. Mill Run meanders in and out of the city and into Logan Township from the Altoona Bible Church to Goods Lane. Area of concern swells during flooding events and causes nuisance flooding. And because of where this is at, the scope of the project would reach beyond our municipal borders. Potential funding estimates $1 to $3 for each $1 to $3 million for each project. And there are again some of the potential grants that may be available along with the matches that we would have for those grants. And these are a little bit different. Nate, do you want to explain what they are more specifically?
I mean, they're just various grant funds that are out there for municipalities to apply for. There's two for DCD. DEP has a few different ones. I just threw the two most familiar ones up there. And then FEMA and PEMA have different grants that pop up. Some, are property take, some are for different operations. So, yeah.
Okay. All right, so that brings us to the end of the presentation in relation to the potential projects that we've identified. The next item really is an evaluation exercise. So in your hard copy packet on the last page, you'll see that you have a form entitled Project Rating Exercise. And again, the goal is to develop a few key projects that city leaders could agree upon and would like to move forward with in terms of preparation for grant submissions. So the projects that we presented here were identified potentially important to Altoona's future growth and development. Presentation also included potential grant sources. So it's broken down, the various projects that we looked at here are broken down into 4 categories. This rating exercise asks you to rate those categories while, and also all of the projects within those categories. So there's a total of, it looks like about 27 projects that have been identified. What we're requesting you to do is just rate which ones you think, have value. And then we can, if you have any questions, we'll try to answer them now. We can reconvene at a future date and flush out some of the responses that we've gotten so that we can, set a plan going forward. And again, out of 27 projects, I wouldn't think that you would probably come up with more than 4 or 5, but, and frankly, if you said we were gonna do all 27, we could not do that. I mean, it would take us a very, very, very long time to do that. So, the scope of some of these projects is, short run. We could be done in maybe even months or a year. Other ones would be very extensive. So, so this is what that is. Do you have any questions about what we're asking you to do? It really is just rate each project in each category 1 to 10.
I think before we rate these, we need to come up with what's realistic and what's obviously not, depending on the neighborhood that these potential projects are in and depending on the cost and funding and grants and matching. I think the rating exercise perhaps can come a little later, but right now there has to be a discernment here of what's possible in the near future, long future, rather than giving the false impression that we may be doing, various projects that, are like 10 times the city yearly budget right now. There are a few projects that are really promising. There are a few pie in the sky projects, so to speak. I think we need to be very wise about how we go about this. We don't want to be alarming people in neighborhoods about possibilities of properties being taken and things like that at this time. I understand that this is on the premise that this is a high view of these projects and nothing's going to happen today or tomorrow, but I want to make sure that we don't, inadvertently have people concerned about things that they shouldn't be concerned about at this time.
Well, if it's okay with council, I mean, we could pick out a handful of projects to bring back to you that we feel would fall into that category for your further discussion, if that's what you would like us to do. Again, the idea is to try to set a strategy for future grant-related activity and projects within the city.
And a lot of these, I think Omar might have mentioned too. I mean, they could be study grants also. So there's there's not these big pie in the sky projects. You could just say, all right, well, we'll throw a couple bucks in because we want to do a study on this and see if it works. I mean, it doesn't mean they're brick and mortar projects. Just sort of. I mean, honestly, with transportation wise, I mean, Altoona's kind of been blessed. We don't have a lot of backups around, so again, you could say we don't do anything. We want to focus on recreation, and life moves on. So just keep that in mind as you're mulling it over.
Yeah, indeed. And like with transportation, we would definitely want to work closely with District 9. A lot of these are state routes here. Recreation, of course, those that are on the Blair Rec Commission. And yeah, definitely.
Would council feel better about picking, say, their top 5 projects, and then we, staff level, can pick our top 5 and then come back and discuss those? Would that make sense?
Yeah, I think that works.
And Omar, are you talking about council picking 5 across all categories?
Yes.
Okay.
Does that seem reasonable?
Oh, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, then we'll save the exercise for some other time.
All right, we'll move on to ARPA project update.
Yeah, so I also handed out to you hard copy of the spreadsheet that should look somewhat familiar in relation to specific recommended uses of ARPA. Now, this has been updated since the last time we talked about this. Specifically, if you recall, some of the items that were if they were identified with a green color, that meant they were complete. If they were identified with a yellow color, that meant they were in progress. I've also added another color here, which is blue, and it's kind of a bluish gray, actually. And it's related to workforce reconstitution. So as we work through our budget process, or we are working through our budget process, we feel there's a need to reconstitute portions of our workforce. So there was not much money identified in the out years of this plan previously for that purpose. But I have identified that money here. Again, it's just an estimate. It's really just a rough estimate at this point. In 23 and 24, 2023 and 2024, and really the balancing number here was taken out of storm sewer renovation next year. All other items are really the same as they were in the last iteration of this particular spreadsheet. So, I mean, we can talk about any and all of the items that are identified here. We can talk about none of them. I just want you to be aware of where I think we should go with some of these funds. Any questions or input or thoughts? You can certainly get back to me with any and all that you might have.
Omar,
Yes.
do we have good figures on the police building? Is a 3.5 million, is that,
Yeah, that's about what we estimated the cost, yeah.
okay, that's a complete number?
Yep.
Okay.
Where are we at on that project?
So I will be meeting with the owner of that parcel tomorrow morning to discuss what his needs are and how we can move forward on that.
Thank you.
Anything else for Omar on this? Okay. Move on to city manager updates.
Yeah, the only real update I have is just to let you, all of council know that at the September or November meeting of the Altoona Water Authority, a member, there's going to be a presentation from the consultant that's building the digester at the Westerly plant. So, when I was at the Water Authority Board meeting, they wanted me to extend the invitation to council to attend that meeting to get updated on exactly where that project stands and, you know, address any questions they may have of the consultant. So I believe it'll be in September, but it may not be until November. And the reason I know it's not going to be October is because the chairman of the Water Authority will not be at the October meeting, so he doesn't want to miss that presentation. But I'll let you know more about it as I learn more specifics. Just wanted to kind of let you know about it now so that you can plan to attend if you're so inclined. That's really all I have for you.
Okay, thank you, Omar. All right, we'll move on to council discussion. Councilman Kelly.
Mayor, thank you, and greetings from here in Boston, Massachusetts, but I have nothing further to offer to the group tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Carper.
I have nothing further to add, Mayor. Thank you.
Councilman Butterball.
Just one thing I've been thinking about the last few months. We started doing these work sessions here because COVID hit and we needed to do the social distancing thing and all that. And I'd like to see them perhaps have us consider moving these back to the conference room at City Hall. That's like a more conducive place for a work session, still open to the public, still plenty of room for public comment and folks to come. But that just seems like a better place to just gather around. Plus that is designed more for a work session type of meeting.
I have no issues with that.
Councilman Ickes.
Thank you, Mayor. Nothing this evening.
Councilman Ellis.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to thank the staff for putting together the presentation this evening. That's an awful lot of work, and it's certainly a lot to digest, but there are some things on there that we definitely do need to give some consideration to.
Councilman Beatty.
I also would like to thank the staff. That's a lot of hard work, and we appreciate your diligence. Thank you.
Yeah, good job, Nate, putting all that together. We'll take media questions now. Bill?
Thank you. I know this happened at the end, but can somebody explain what's going on with the police station project? Like, is that, like, what the status of that is, I guess, or the proposal for the police station?
So we're looking at an expansion of the building to accommodate the needs of that department.
Expansion meaning like doing an addition on it?
Yes,
Up or out?
out.
Out where, in which direction?
In the location of the former downtown drug building.
Any kind of estimate on the cost of that?
Looks like about $3.5 million.
And when would it likely, this would be funded with ARPA money?
Yes,
And when could construction begin at this?
we don't know yet, Bill. It's just discussion phases right now.
And what would be the purpose of it? Like how, in what way is it necessary, I guess, to do it?
I don't know. Chief, maybe you can weigh in on that.
Primarily if it's built, the new part of the building will be made into our evidence room to accommodate, obviously, we keep getting more and more evidence in. Eventually you run out of space when you keep filling the bucket full of water. So the majority of the space will be utilized to have a updated and bigger evidence room.
Okay, thanks. Would anybody care to comment on the Ruskin Drive residents' request for help from the city on her flooding problem?
Yeah, I think it's something that Public Works will look into, and then we'll go from there.
And would anybody care to comment on Comcast's plan? I mean, more than you already did, Matt, on Comcast's plan to build in Altoona and provide service to the city?
I think that's the competition for our current cable internet providers is one of the leading requests that I receive from constituents, and not only just our constituents, but other residents from other municipalities around Blair County. So the fact that we'll be able to offer another choice to our residents as to what cable and internet provider they use is going to be really big.
Will it be big mainly because of the variety of shows or the price, or both?
Just competition in general is going to will be good for everybody in the end.
Do you think that would mean cheaper costs here or not? I don't know much about the.
It's typically how competition works, yeah.
Anybody else want to say anything about that?
I think that's been something that's been sorely needed in Altoona for a while. And the present system we have has many flaws, whether it be Verizon DSL. If you live more than a mile from the main hub, you get almost no signal. And then with Atlantic Broadband, I think or Breezeline, I think their system needs some serious upgrading. So I think bringing another system in would, really step things up for customers in Altoona as far as internet speeds, choice of programming. I think there would be a whole myriad. When you have competition, somebody's going to have to step up to stay in the game. So.
I had asked this question from somebody at Comcast when they first talked about coming in here several months ago, and I didn't really get a very clear answer, but can anybody tell me why they can afford to do it now when it seemed like in the past it was always considered to be, if there's a provider already here, it's not affordable for a new one to come in?
I think that's probably a question best asked to them.
Okay.
I mean, I can speculate why, but that's not doing any good. So you might as well just get the real answer from them.
Okay. And did I understand right or did I interpret what they were saying right, the Comcast representatives here, that there could be service to customers in the city in a year, about?
I don't know if they gave a time frame, and I don't think I'd be comfortable commenting on a time frame.
Okay. Regarding the projects that Omar presented, Omar and Nate, do I understand right that the agreement is that everybody's going to pick their top 5 and not ranked? Is that the way it's going to go?
Can you ask that again? I'm sorry.
Did I understand right that for the project rankings, everybody's just going to pick their top 5 without ranking them one to, among those 5? Is that?
I think it was picking 5 projects from each category that we would like to further look into as.
No, 5 total. 5 total.
Or 5 total. Yeah.
Okay, but not necessarily ranking them, just 5. Hey, these are the 5 that I like. That kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Would anybody at this point care to say what they like?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the last
Would anybody care to say now what they like off the top of their heads, I guess?
I would just say that the slide deck was 40 pages. I probably need some more time to review the items in here.
Okay.
My concern for suggesting that was we don't want to startle neighborhoods, into thinking that we're going to take out a swath of houses here or there before really wisely looking into this and collaborating, whether it's with Logan Township or with PennDOT and especially and most importantly the neighbors of these particular areas that we're looking at.
Gotcha. Okay, that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Meeting is adjourned.